Welcome to 2020 Tasty Treats with GourmetQuilter. We're working on the Leftovers Pantry at the moment. So I'm Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter, and we've been setting up a pantry. We're doing a series of 20 parts. This is part 4. Doing a series on setting up our pantry of our leftovers. So leftovers from previous projects or whatever it happens to be. Cutting up some fabrics you're not sure that you know what to do with. That can also go in there too. So we've labelled all our... I'm using drawers, that there might be boxes, bags, any number of things. I've got everything labelled so that things are going where they belong, and then we know where to find them. It's so exciting to use fabrics that really are just sitting around. Why wouldn't we make them into something else? So this time we've cut some strips to put in our pantry. So we've stocked the pantry with all the different size strips. Then we've cut some squares from some of those strips, and they're also all sitting in there, and they're probably grouped together with perhaps a clasp of some sort as squares in the different sizes. And this time we're going to cut a few rectangles. So we don't necessarily need to do every size this time. There's different ways of using rectangles. Sometimes they can be used for sashings, they can be used within blocks, they can be used for any number of things. So I just thought we'd cut some more commonly used sizes at the moment so that we can have a little play later on. So what I've got here is these are 2.5 inch wide strips, and there's often short lengths left from projects and things. So I'm just going to cut from these shorter ones. So I've kind of grouped them a little bit in sizing so that I can get shorter ones out of these, I can get slightly longer ones out of these, and these are obviously longer strips, so we can get even longer ones out of those. And you could get more, of course, out of these, but we don't need to cut everything up. We can just cut up some things that we want to use, at least at the moment, to try things out, and then we can decide what we like doing and cut more. So I've lined them up here. I've got about 4 fabrics in a stack to cut at a time. I'm just going to trim the ends so that they're nice and tidy at the end, and then I'm just going to come along and I'm just going to cut them at 4.5 inches because that's a good size. 2.5 by 4.5, and that then leaves me with some very funny little bits. Now some of them won't be much use to us, some of them can go into squares, so at the same time, when it's only small amounts like that, I could leave that there because that's just cut there, and because I know it's not going to go anything more than just a square, I could actually cut those squares now. At the same time, I can discard those small pieces. So unless you want to use them for something else, to me that's a discard, fully discarded pile. But these are squares, they can go in my drawer with my other squares. These are the rectangles I was wanting to cut in this size. So I've got a little stack of those now. So again, with our clips or some other arrangement so that you can group everything so that you can easily find things that are the same size in your containers. And then we want some that are a little bit longer. So same thing, I'm just lining these up so that I can just trim off a little bit at the end here, and I'm going to cut these ones at 6.5 inches. So some of them are close, but close is okay as long as it fits. So again, I'm just going to trim. So I'm using the board to help me with my measurements. It helps me see how long things are, it helps me cut things the length I want. So I want to come across to 6.5 inches now. And now some of these were folded, so there's just a chance some of those will make something larger, but there's also a high chance that they won't be much use. But when you think that they're leftovers already, I think that discarding small amounts is fine, or you might want to be doing some little crumb quilting, or there's lots of ways of using up tiny bits, but we're mostly just using things that we can set up in our pantry this time. So that's another grouping of a size. So I would again put a clip on those to pop back in the drawer of the 2.5 inch. And then we've got another lot here because I was suggesting 3 possible sizes as being fairly commonly used. So I would line up, as long as my ruler is longer than my piles of fabrics, I can just set all those up, trim off those ends, make sure you trim off any selvages and things as well if there's still selvages on the ends. And then I'm going to come along here. And I want to come along this time to 8.5 inches. So I can count, or I can use my ruler and I can just come along here. And I know that that's now 8.5 inches from that edge. And I can cut those. So those are the 3 sizes from 2.5-inch strips that I'm suggesting we have a little play with coming up soon. And again, I would clip those. So there are some notes with instructions or information to help you with all of this. So don't forget, you can be cutting other pieces so that they're not wasted at the same time. You can cut the different groupings of sizing. These can now go back into the drawer ready for future use, because we know that they're still all that 2.5-inch size but not pre-cut into a certain length. And then I'm also suggesting that we cut some from some of the 1.5-inch strips. So I'll just put these out of the way for a minute. And the same thing, there's 3 sizes of those. So if they're longer strips like these are, I might lay them and just walk along and cut some other sizes at the same time. Some of these are longer, which is nice. Some of them are shorter, but we don't have to cut the whole strip up. At the moment we're just cutting enough to do a little bit of playing, so I would just again trim off my little ends, and I can cut this many at once. It's just wonderful when we lay things out nicely like this. And it's because I've ironed everything. If you want to, you can always use some sort of an iron aid, a spray starch, or there's various other things that just help keep your fabric sitting nicely, and it helps quite a lot. So again, there's 3 sizes, and all the information is in the notes, but we don't necessarily have to just do one lot and then stop. We can do one lot, we could clip them together. We can come along and do the next lot and group those together, and we can come along and do the 3rd lot while we're all in the one place. So the fabrics are all laid out. It's a quicker way of doing it than doing every one individually, and there's no real need. We mostly have rulers that are long enough to cope with this. If you don't make your piles too thick, 4 layers of fabric is probably a really good amount. Otherwise they can get a little bit unstable if it's too bulky. And there we've got 3 more piles of some pre-cut sizes. These can go back in the drawer ready for something else, but it's all kind of under control. Oh, we do like to be under control, don't we? How often are we ever under control though? But it does help. It's kind of exciting to do this. It feels good to do it, and it's using things that we've most often already got, and we can turn them into something amazing later on. So, which I'll be showing you some of that amazingness as we go forward. So this was part 4 from the 20 parts. We've cut some rectangles this time, just in a few sizes that we can have a little play with, and next time we might start playing with some things out of that pantry. So I will see you again for the Leftovers Pantry part 5.